So
the history
of
gnomes.
So gnomes, it's a mythological creature that kind of gained traction in like the Renaissance era in a lot of alchemical books, believe it or not, rather than literature and folklore. They were more of an alchemical
You
presence.
mean like alchemy?
Alchemy, yeah. It's dude. Buckle up. This ride is weird, kind of disappointing, and nowhere near what you think it's going to be.
And my conspiracy theory wasn't weird enough.
The reality is kind of weirder than that conspiracy theory, honestly.
Oh, fair enough. Let's hear it. Okay, so
now, everything you think about, like, okay, take a second, just freeze frame yourself right now in your thought as to what you think the history of gnomes in folklore and history is right now. I'll give you a few seconds to ruminate on that. I'll give you 3 seconds. 2, 1. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, because I had an idea, and it was wrong, too.
Actually, yeah, you want me to... I could tell you what I thought gnomes were before whatever you're about to say.
Lay it on me.
I have a little bit of an idea. Okay, so I thought gnomes originally were just little garden gnomes. They're just hanging around in the garden. And you buy them.
Like little spirits
little,
almost?
Like trinkets, kind of. Yeah, like a little, it's a little statue type of thing. Would you say spirit?
Yeah, it's almost like a
like a little spirit kind of thing, or like some kind of magical little creature, like a fairy or a dwarf of some kind. That's about it. Yeah.
Nope.
The truth is much weirder.
Nope. The truth is they're entirely a literature creation. There is no gnomes in folklore.
Okay, so maybe we need a distinction between folklore and literature, because I thought folklore was literature.
Folklore is mythological tradition, like
passed orally.
Sort of like so folklore is more oral tradition, more like stories, folk wisdom, urban legends, stuff like that. It's like, literature is stories. Literature is actual books. Mm-hmm. That like fiction or nonfiction. Folklore is more of the person-to-person oral tradition. So legends. Folklore is more legends and myths,
and more of perhaps even like cultural significance.
Yes.
Whereas until paper and pens and things were invented.
Correct.
Because that's how you would pass everything down. Be orally.
Yes.
Or scratch it on a cave or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
So much like orcs in our last episode, gnomes are almost entirely a creation of literature. Actually, more so, because whereas orcs were kind of like a word that could be thrown back and forth to mean like goblin or like an evil spirit or something like that, gnome didn't really show up in the broad scheme of things until like the Renaissance, and people started trying to turn cat piss into gold with alchemy and stuff like that. Like gnomes were mentioned as spirits to show up in that. Like here, I could just get into it here. Gnome, it's a mythological creature, diminutive spirit in Renaissance magic and alchemy. First introduced by Paracelsus in the 16th century, so the 1500s, and later adopted by authors, including those of modern fantasy literature. They're seen as small, diminutive, usually live underground, big bushy beards, oftentimes big pointy hat, all that jazz. But basically, they are more famous for the statues in front of people's houses.
Exactly. They're digging tunnels under the ground and they're taking over the world.
Than their actual literature impact. They are more part of the modern lexicon and zeitgeist for just being lawn ornaments than their actual cultural impact.
Okay,
it's fascinating that these
gnomes
things
are actually more modern.
Very much so, yes.
More of a modern.
So the word comes from Renaissance Latin, gnomus.
It's always Latin.
Gnomus, which appears in a book of nymphs, sylphs, pygmies, and salamanders, and on the other spirits by Paracelsus, published posthumously in Nisa in 1566, and again in the Johannes Huser edition of 1589 through 1591 from an autograph by Paracelsus. So the term may have been an original invention by this dude, possibly deriving the term from the Latin GNOMES, itself representing a Greek word approximately gnomos, literally earth dweller. That maybe he just kind of dropped the E out of it and just created nomos to be like a truncated version of that. So the widely held idea is that this dude just made them up.